Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm here with my boy Dan, and we're going to do something a little bit different today. Dan has presented me some information about a potential rediscovery of a project in 2016 that was created by the founder of ENS, actually. He presented me a lot of information, and we're just going to go through and debate this. And his profile picture is something called a broken ether rock, which I'm going to have him explain to me as well. And he has some information. So I hope that everyone goes into this conversation with an open mind as much as I am, because I know a lot of us, we like to debate semantics and we like to discredit things based off of our own opinions. But the way that we understand if something is historical or if it is an NFT even or anything of that nature is to have these kind of conversations. So Dan, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
And by the way, the background he has, that is the symbol of Beercoin. And so Dan became well prepared, which we'll go and I'll share the screen here in a second, but Dan, just tell us a little bit about yourself and also your experience within the historical NFT community.
Yeah, so as far as my story, I have a computer science degree, and I got it a long time ago. Worked at startups a little bit, but working for companies wasn't really for me. So spent a couple decades just doing my own thing. I was a professional poker player. I also studied the tax code and started a tax business. And, so now I represent people before the IRS. I do taxes in the spring. Also been involved in crypto for a while. But my involvement in crypto was just as an investor and just someone who was interested in the technology. I didn't really get my hands dirty and do stuff with it until 2021. Early 2021, I heard about this NFT thing and I was like, man, this is really wacky and cool. And so I was still just approaching it as like a trader. And I just made some selective picks. I got in on CryptoPunks and got out at the top, which was like a really awesome lucky score. So also was really into crypto dick butts in the early days. And then I don't know, when I heard about those version 1 CryptoPunks, I was super excited. So I made some good picks in 2021. But there was a point where my wife and I, she's also a computer scientist, we looked at each other and we said, we got to make our own NFT set. And, because we have the skills to do this. So let's just do it and see what happens. So, and we also decided that we can't just make a picture-based set. We need to make something kind of crazy. So we set out to make the first chatbot NFT, the first NFT that you can actually talk to, where it'll have a picture, but also a brain, which is code and dialogue, and it'll all be stored on IPFS, and you'll own the whole thing. And this will lead us to historical NFTs, but this is sort of the path that we took. So we made this NFT set called Hot Bodies, BOTTIES. It's like a romantic partner, chatbot, sex bot, whatever. And it's these 40 characters. It's just kind of like a fun, jokey thing. And you can actually talk to them on OpenSea. I think it came out really pretty good, actually. And we went crazy with it. We ended up investing a lot of money, forming a team of 10 people. It was a huge effort. It didn't really take off, but that's fine because we still got a lot out of it. And I got a lot of knowledge out of it, actually, because what happened was I had to learn about Solidity and Etherscan and all the stuff beneath the surface in terms of NFTs. And in the process of learning all this stuff, it started to occur to me that the historical NFT stuff that's where the value is. That's where because I said there's so much stuff coming out in 2021. A lot of it's really cool, but it's just too much. But if you go back and you go back a few years, you have exponentially fewer projects. So in parallel to making this Hot Body set, I got really into historical NFTs. I didn't know it was called that. I didn't know there was a community or whatever. I just said like, oh, I got to find some of this old shit, like let's find this. So I started digging around and somehow I came across this Reddit post, which was an announcement of Beercoin from July 2016. And this was Nick Johnson, the eventual founder of ENS. This was one of his early projects. Now, there's some other projects called Beercoin from later. So I'm not referring to that. This is the original 2016 project. So I read this post and I got really excited because it appeared to be just like one of the earliest NFTs. And on the surface, it doesn't look like an NFT because it's kind of described as a cryptocurrency, and they talk about ERC20 and so forth. But if you look a little more closely, what it is it's a system for issuing beer IOUs to people. So someone does you a favor, you issue them a beer IOU, and then you're supposed to get together for a beer later, and then it gets canceled. So it's non-fungible because the IOUs from different people are kept separate in your wallet. So what Nick says in the announcement, he says like an IOU from Vitalik Buterin is different from one from the DAO hacker. Okay, so clearly designed to be non-fungible. And so, so anyway, my wife and I both got really excited about Beercoin, and we thought it was super cool. And we figured out that there's only a handful of old ones created in 2016, 2017, and then the contract was just untouched for a few years. And I'll get into as much detail as you want about how Beercoin actually works, but the story, but then there's the story of actually acquiring one, because we said like, well, how are we going to get our hands on one of these old things? Like it's going to be virtually impossible. So we thought about it, and like I said, we were in the middle of making this SexBot NFT, and I said, if we offer Nick Johnson, because we knew he has some of the old ones, but if we offer him money, I don't know if he'd be interested in taking money from one of his old Beercoins. So I thought, what if we make one of the hot bodies into like a Beercoin enthusiast? So she'll be like your romantic partner, but she'll also like tell you all about Beercoin and be like really into it, right? If we made this and then I reached out to him and offered a trade, how could he resist? It's just too crazy. So we went ahead and did it, and we created Amber Hops, which is she's one of the 40 hot bodies, and she loves Beercoin. So then when Amber Hops was created, we reached out to Nick on Twitter and said, we really like your Beercoin project. We think it's super cool. And we made something that we think is really cool. So maybe we could work out a trade. And he responded and he said, sure, I'll trade. But I have to find the keys to the wallet. I don't even, it's like 5 or 6 years old. So I was a little concerned that he wasn't going to find the keys. But then a week later, he got back to us. He said, yeah, I found it. He sent over the Beercoin, and we sent him the hot body. So that's the story for like how we got our hands on one of these old Beercoins. Yeah,
it's a fantastic story, and there's a few points I'd like to point out. First, the fact that Nick found the keys proves provenance to it, like that he has access to it. And we'll dive into the technicals in a second. And when you first explained Beercoin to me, the first historical project that I could relate it to was Umbrella. Umbrella is the project on Counterparty that was the first real world redemption token, at least at this point. It was 300, I think it was originally 600 Counterparty tokens, and each one was an IOU for a real life Umbrella. So this came, I think, about 2 years afterwards or a year afterwards. So it's very similar, but this is kind of the Ethereum counterpart to it, and ironically. And also Nick is just a staple within the community. And when you reached out to him, what was his response? Did he kind of look past it as a joke? Does he understand the historical provenance? And did he further provide any information about his perspective about the project?
He didn't understand at all and didn't seem to care. So his response was, oh, do you want me to issue a new one or do you want me to give you an old one? Of course I want an old one, right? Like if you issue a new one, it's not going to be worth as much as a 2016, 2017. So that really said to me that there's just different groups of people that think differently in the Ethereum world. And some of these Ethereum OGs don't care about NFTs very much, or historical NFTs. It's just not a concept that's like, it's not in their head right now. And that's fine. You know, it's everybody sees things differently. I mean, they're working on the next new thing. Why they don't care about some old project they made a long time ago.
And the pre-punk trend within ENS is starting to grow. They're actually going to soon, if it gets approved, and there's a open communication on the ENS forum about providing the original registration date on the metadata of ENS domains. So if that happens, he's obviously that's running that. Maybe that can provide a little bit more insight to what historical NFTs really mean and the value of provenance in a digital world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But he didn't provide anything else from that after you asked. Did you ask him about, and I'll pull up some of your notes here in a second, but did he ask anything about his intentions behind it? Was he just like a giant beer drinker? Was it more of experimentation? And I would assume this was about 4 or 5 months before ENS actually launched. So maybe this provided some sort of provenance and knowledge for ENS down the road.
Yeah, obviously it would be better if he was here because he's the creator. He didn't say much. He's just very busy with other things. And, we went back and forth a couple of times. I said, like, how about, why don't you wrap one of your Beercoins in the wrapper and whatever? He said, yeah, when I get around to it. But it's so yeah. I mean, he just doesn't have time right now. So what I know about Beercoin really comes from the old Reddit announcement and all the comments and maybe some tweets that came afterwards. But unfortunately, I can't give you like extensive background on the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so here's the ENS contract. And if we go, there's been 284. I'm assuming this is you right here, right? 35 days ago, or probably pretty close. And if you go all the way to the back, this is how you check. The Beercoin contract was created July 29th, 2016. So there's the actual date. And you can see there's been about 284 transactions on this contract, and it looks like they were somewhat active for a little while, and then it eventually tails off at some point. But you did quite a good job at digging this up with the limited amount of information provided. Only 94 beers were owed in total. Do you know if any beers were actually redeemed?
Yes, I do know, because I manually went through every single transaction because I wanted to understand. I wanted to truly understand what was going on with this before I wrote a wrapper and went and told people about it and everything. So yeah, there were back in the day, there were IOUs issued, and then the debts were canceled, and there were people doing weird things with the contract. Like you could issue a maximum of 600, you could owe 640,000 beers or so at a time. So there was one where someone issued an IOU for that amount and somebody canceled all but one of them. And so like, that's all, you can see that all in the transaction history. And, I had to, it's actually interesting. There are quirks with this project, and I had to go back through all the transactions because I had to separate out the old ones, the ones that were issued in 2016 and 17 from the new ones. It was rediscovered in 2021. And from that point forward, people can issue just infinitely many. And I'm not really interested in those. So I had to figure out that, there was 94 back then. And I had to see who issued them and who was the debtor and who was the creditor. And I carefully sort of cataloged all that. And that went into the creation of the wrapper contract that I made to turn it into or to be able to kind of turn it into a ERC 721 that you could actually trade on the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And it was, there were a lot of interesting challenges there.
And this is very common of creating a wrapper so that they could be tokenized on OpenSea and sold to the masses. Started with Mooncats and CryptoCats and has just gone on since then. Actually, I think CryptoPunks V1 might have been first with FUBAR, but here's this is the email that you provided me, and I actually copied and pasted it directly as you sent it to me. So those that are watching can know there's nothing really held back. And so we go through the story, talked about how you discovered Beercoin and acquired one, the IOU system, the hot bodies, and then the high level description, right? System where someone does you a favor, you can issue an IOU to buy them a beer. I wonder what type of beers.
Just for fun, non-binding. I'm making it clear. This is not like you should not expect that somebody's going to give you a beer. Mm-hmm. But in theory, that's what's supposed to happen.
IOU can be voided if you meet up for a beer, but can also be transferred to other people. On the surface, it looks like another fungible token. IOUs can be different, and that's what it is. So diving into the technicals a little bit, the non-fungibility actually, and this is a little bit of philosophy too, the non-fungibility comes from the off-chain actions of it, but on-chain, they're ERC20s, but when you look at historical NFTs that predate ERC21, like Mooncats, for example, using because I'm most familiar, every single ERC20 token is actually technically different based off of the modification that Pondaware introduced to their ERC20, and every ERC20 has its own DNA, which represents the Mooncats, yada, yada, yada. Is there anything like this in the Beercoin contract that technically signifies that the tokens are different, or is all of the non-fungibility from the off-chain actions?
Yes, just to be clear, it is absolutely non-fungible at the level of the smart contract. So the smart contract carefully, like you'll have a wallet of beer IOUs, and it's not just a number like, oh, I'm owed 10 beers. It's like I'm owed 3 from this person and 4 from this other person, and then 1 from this other person. So you have these separate items. Now you could call it semi-fungible because from one issuer, the contract doesn't distinguish like, okay, this person owes me 3 beers. It doesn't matter which is which, but certainly across issuers, they can't be interchanged. So that's at the level of the contract. Yeah.
All right. And so we see there's 69 holders, pretty on brand, 120 transfers total, and max supply right here, it says 1,106. On your article, it said that there was 94 beers owed in total, but 1,000 tokens.
Well, 94 at the end of 2017, but like I said, people messed around with the contract from 2021 on. The 1,000, my wife gave herself 1,000 beers. but like I said, and we can get to this. They're
right here. Okay.
This has been a bit of a controversy in the NFT Relics Discord, like whether, like, if you can eventually mint infinitely many, does it sort of invalidate the entire set? And I say no. I say that, like, no, there's 94 old ones, and those are the ones I care about. I want to preserve the provenance of those. Everything that came after that, I don't care. So that's where the 1,000 comes from.
And that's common. I mean, CryptoKitties, the value is in the Gen 0 in 2017 minted cats. Same thing with Genesis Rocks. That's an infinite supply, but I think it's 0 through number 99, might be a little bit more is the value. And we see this common time and time again because this is how experimentation happened back then. And we could see there are some archaeologists who were experimenting with this at some time ago. This might have been before you discovered it. Yeah. Yeah, we had Adam, Obi's on there. And it looks like Obi or one person was right before, and then they kind of came through. Did you discuss this with any other NFT archaeologists or NFT historians, and what were the opinions that they were presenting to you? I'm just curious of what the counter arguments are.
Right. So I didn't really discuss it beforehand. First, I was interested in acquiring one and then creating a wrapper contract because I wanted to make sure I had one and then that I did the wrapper in the right way. I didn't want anyone to mess it up. And I think I built a system that carefully preserves the provenance of these things. Mm-hmm. So I did all that myself. Then after it was all done, this was like a month ago, I went into the NFT Relics Discord, and I had never been there before. And I announced like, hey guys, I found, one of the oldest NFTs. I wrote a wrapper contract. I expected they were going to like roll out the red carpet for me and cheer me on and like everybody would be all excited, but it was totally the opposite. They were like, no, this is BS. It doesn't count. It's fungible or whatever. Like they were just levying all these criticisms. And so that was the initial response. Now I've made a bit of headway since then. I think there are a few people that do understand that it's a pretty cool digital collectible, but I'm still getting pushback. And this guy Blackstar, who you had on your show, yep. I like him. I like all these guys in the NFT Relics Discord. They're great. It's so fun to talk to them. But Blackstar is making these criticisms and that I can just easily refute. I mean, first of all, there's he says, well, infinitely many can be minted, so therefore it doesn't count. I think that's a BS argument because of CryptoKitties and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I guess the other argument is something like it wasn't intended to be a collectible, so therefore it doesn't count.
That comes from a handful of people who they classify Namecoin NFTs, or they declassify Namecoin as NFTs because of the intentionality behind it. We know that blockheads and Twitter eggs and manga avatars and a few of these other ones were all unique individuals registering URL images onto the Namecoin blockchain. And then eventually over time, when they were rediscovered, we found that there was a collection of 277 or 30 or whatever, which then becomes a collection, but they were all unintentionally they're intentionally minting these as individuals, but not as a collection. And for some people that actually ascribes more value, because you're now saying that you have a multitude of people who are coming to the same conclusion in history, and now retroactively looking at it, we know that there was something there because they all had the same opinion or same actions.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'll be honest, I would love for somebody to come up with like a real criticism or a real fatal flaw in this. I'm totally open to that. Come at me with the best you've got. And maybe something's broken. Maybe the wrapper contract doesn't work. The original contract is broken or something. But so far, I don't know. I just think I feel like it's fine. I don't know.
I am in the agreement thus far. Do you know the Reddit post? I was trying to look for it. I couldn't find it. Do you have it posted anywhere?
Oh, yeah. In the article, if you go to the top, it's no. It's linked in the article somewhere.
Oh, okay. So it's not that one. It might be.
Oh, no. Go up to the first paragraph.
Because this took me to.
Oh, you know what? I guess I didn't link it. If you search for Reddit Beercoin, it comes up. But,
okay, cool. Let me find that. I'd like to look through this too. The Reddit post is very important, or the intentionality behind it, because this is how we determined the provenance behind puny codes, behind Umbrella, and a handful of other assets. I should probably go for...
Yes. No, it's there. Go down to introducing Beercoin. It's right there.
All right, did I miss it? Hold on. All right here?
No. It's at the top now.
Oh, my bad.
It's like 5 down.
Oh, this one. Oh, introducing Beercoin. Okay, right here. Here we are. All right. It is actually by Nick Johnson 6 years ago. Introducing Beercoin, 208 upvotes. At long last, I'm pleased to present Beercoin, a new token contract that can be found on the blockchain. Beercoin is a new cryptocurrency intended to encapsulate and record the concept of I owe you a beer. Did someone answer a difficult question you had? Send them a Beercoin. Did they help you carry something heavy? Send them a Beercoin. Someone buy you a beer, send them a Beercoin. Unlike traditional currency, anyone can issue Beercoin simply by sending it to someone else. A person's Beercoin is only as valuable as the recipient's belief that they're good for the beer. Should it ever be redeemed, a beer owed to you by Vitalik Buterin is probably worth more than a beer owed to you by the DAO hacker, which is what you mentioned. But in your opinions, it may differ. Beercoin is implemented as an ERC20 compatible token with a few extensions. So a few extensions adds the provenance behind it that it was modified as an ERC20, which could, depending on how you view it, prove the non-fungibility because it's not just a standard ERC20 token. Regular ERC20 transfers will create or resolve obligations between the two parties. They will never transfer third-party Beercoins. Additional methods are provided to allow you to transfer beers. Someone owes you to a third party. If Satoshi Nakamoto owes you a beer, but you could transfer that obligation to your friend who just bought you one down at the pub. Methods are also provided for determining the total number of beers a person owes to help determine if they're good for it and for getting a list of accounts that we owe someone a beer. Almost done. Beercoin may confuse some wallets such as Mist that expect you can only send currency up to your current balance total. Since Beercoin operates as individual IOUs, the restriction doesn't apply. As a result, you will sometimes need to call the transfer function on the contract itself instead of using the wallet's built-in token support. And then it goes on to list the process of adding Beercoin to the Mist wallet, which I'm not even familiar with that, and then sending, and talks about the rewards and bounties and some other things. But yeah, Nick stating that he made modifications to the contract, where he says a few extensions, to me provides more certainty that it is a non-fungible token.
Yeah, and also just to get technical, the transfer function would be the equivalent of the mint function in our ERC 721. So transfer means create a new IOU. And then there's another function called transfer other, which means take this IOU that's already made and give it to someone else. So, you know, the names are all weird, but it functions like an NFT.
Yeah, I agree. Some of these contents are pretty funny. The highest upvote's just a bunch of laughing faces. Here's some comments I'm going to read off. They would probably argue the beer you sent is invalid. Only the beer on the chain is real. And also that this Beercoin you created is their property, so you better back off. You owe them a keystone or natural height. How is the address for a newly created contract determined again? I don't think it is determined when the transaction is created, but when it is put into a block. Am I correct about this? If the address of the contract depends on the state of when it was made, I would think that if one relayed the creation contract on another chain, it would have a different address, and therefore replay transactions sent to it on the other chain would not go to the version created on the other chain. And then Nick goes in and says the address for a newly created contract depends only on the address of the creating account and its nonce. So it'll be same across chains. Killer Dap, and just goes on with just some more. But there's a lot of comments. It seems like there was a lot of activity. Have you tried reaching out to any of these people in the comments to see if they still own their tokens? And it looks like this person here, My Crypto Taylor.
Yes, Taylor Monahan. She is the CEO of the My Crypto wallet. She is one of the ones that I reached out to. But the people in these comments, these are like the luminaries of Ethereum. These are the people that were the OG early adopters. They went on to do all kinds of crazy stuff. I did reach out to 5 or so of them. I got no responses. Besides one person wrote back and said, the Beercoin I have is a special gift. I don't want to do anything with it. So talk about scarcity. it's going to be hard for anyone to get their hands on one of these.
That's what I would assume. So if you're thinking about it theoretically, if the majority of the 90 or so before 2017 are unattainable, does it make it more valuable or less valuable because of the absolute scarcity of it? Like how do you even begin to price and value things like of that nature?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was very happy to have acquired one, and I wouldn't sell it unless somebody offered a sky high number. But that's just me. Other people can say these things are worthless. I guess you could make the argument that like, they were intended to be gifts, or they're not like really something you should sell or something like that. So maybe they're not worth a lot. I mean, I don't know. It's up to the market to decide, I guess.
Exactly. And this all is proved over time. So there is a comment by Nick that says that there's a lot of people. Oh, here, I'll read the beginning. Yep, I agree entirely. In practice, one beer as a base unit is far too large, and beer is probably the wrong basket of goods to price something on, but the basic idea is sound. There's a lot of people who take this quite seriously, and I thought Beercoin was a low stakes and lighthearted way to introduce the idea. If nothing else, it exposes a few shortcomings in the EIP20 protocol when applied to this sort of multi-issuer currency, right? Is this him not hinting at ERC 721?
Of course. Yeah, we're talking about a piece of history, a step on the way to the ERC 721 standard. Of course.
Yeah. That's that. I mean, if that, without anything else, it's Nick hinting at that this is a precursor to what NFTs actually are. So I guess people can deny it, but I think, in my opinion, as far as we've gotten, as long as, especially if ENS becomes the thing that everyone believes, and this is Nick's first project or one of his first, I think the value can be like exceedingly high on something like this. There's somebody from the Ethereum Foundation, Victor Maya, is commenting in here. This kind of develop makes me irrationally happy. Yeah, holy crap, there's a ton of people on this Reddit post. Thanks for the nice example, ERC20. Yeah, I mean, as far as we're getting into this, I would say it's definitely an NFT or just a primitive NFT. If it reminds me very similar to, like I said, the off-chain actions of counterparty and Doge party assets. So if you believe those are, then this is probably something pretty similar as well. Let's dive a little bit now that we've talked a little bit about the ideology and philosophy behind it. You wrote a Raptor contract. You mentioned that it was quite difficult. There's a lot of nuance that went into writing it. Tell us a little bit about the process of writing it and some of the hurdles that you had to overcome.
Yeah, sure. So this one was a bit tricky because I'm interested in owning the old beer IOUs, but there's no notion of age in the original contract. So you just have address A owes a beer to address B, right? So that sort of that's the reason why I had to go back through all the transactions and see like what are the real old ones. And then when I made the wrapper contract, I had a list of debtor creditor pairs. So some people owed multiple beers to other people, which is why it came out to exactly 77 unique pairs of debtors and creditors. And I made it so that only those pairs could wrap. Okay, so you can't just go make a new Beercoin and then use the wrapper contract. It won't work. You have to actually be one of the original holders, and that's sort of a limitation. You can't take one of these and transfer it to someone else and then they try to wrap. It won't work. The wrapper contract will reject it. So you have to be one of the specific old holders. And let's see. You have to wrap directly. And once you wrap and unwrap, you can't wrap again. It's just a one-time use thing. You can unwrap it. You can. But you can't just use it over and over again.
Is that based off of the how the old contract was written and applying the wrapper to it?
No, it's just me being extremely careful about protecting the provenance and making sure it's like checking that, like, yeah, you have to be the original holder in order to wrap. So if you make a token, if you get a token and then pass it around and then somebody unwraps it and they rewrap it, then they're not recognized as an original holder. Now, it doesn't matter. You still have the old IOU, but it's just my wrapper is really carefully designed to just be very strict. And someday maybe somebody will design a different wrapper that's like more forgiving, I guess. But that's the way it works. And I also so I have these words of warning about how, like, okay, you got to be really careful about this. The original holder has to do the wrapping, etc. Also, because it uses the address to determine whether you're allowed to wrap. So somebody like this would never happen, and it's so unlikely. But like, what if one, like, A owes B a beer, B cancels the old IOU and creates and then A creates a new one, and then B tries to wrap the new one. It's possible theoretically that my wrapper contract would allow you to like wrap a new one if it was the exact same addresses as before. So I went through all this like very rare situation that it's not going to happen. But like the main point here is this is for the absolute most advanced collectors. Do not touch this thing unless you know Solidity, Etherscan, if you know how to read through transactions. It's all new, it's messy. And I don't want anyone to get the impression they could just like dive in without, really doing some careful study.
I would get wrecked so hard trying to do this. So what if I was somebody who was listening to this and I was an original claimant of Beercoin in 2016-17, but I'm terrified to do something like this and ruin the provenance and integrity of the token. How would you go about wrapping it?
Well, right. So if you are one of the original holders, I have the instructions here. You would go to the original contract and you would call the approve function, and you would give my wrapper contract permission to wrap your IOU. Okay. So let's say you have an IOU. Let's say you're owed 2 beers. Okay. You would go and you would say, give the wrapper contract permission to wrap these 2 beers. And then what would happen is the wrapper contract is going to create a special address, a brand new address that can only hold 2 beers. And then you're going to give it permission, and then it's going to move the IOU, and now the beers will be owed to that address. And it has to be a separate address because I don't want anybody else to be issuing IOUs to that address. I don't want it to take any chance that it'll get like spoiled or like someone will mess with it. So it's like each one has its own special holder, and then those 2 will go to the special holder address and you'll get a token. And then, if you ever want to trade that token in, you call the unwrap, and then those 2 beers will be owed to you. So I do want to point out that I did this as an ERC 721. So if someone is owed multiple beers in the original contract, they have to wrap them all together. They have to they're going to get a 2 beer token or a 12 beer token. Okay. There's very few multiples, but the way the wrapper works, it's sort of they got to all go together. It's just another way to just keep things kind of simple and strict.
How long did it take you to write this?
Well, I mean, it's the first significant Solidity project I've ever done. So it took a long time to learn all this stuff.
And here's the Beercoin. I would assume this is yours. I'm on OpenSea.
That's mine, yeah.
And so it has the issue date. And so let's say I am an original holder and mine was issued November 2016. Will this update automatically?
Yeah, because I manually went through and all the images correspond to the correct. It all should be correct, according to the state of the contract as it is right now.
Wow. Yeah. 20. Wow. This is actually this is quite fascinating. And just the fact that Nick is behind it is incredible.
So the idea, the bottom line is you could you could acquire this token and then you could unwrap it. And then that address there owes you a beer. I don't know who that person is. Somebody out there, some Ethereum OG owes you a beer. So that's the idea.
Here we are, Beercoin. Hopefully one day, Nick, if you're listening to this, I hope we can get you on the podcast and talk about Beercoin, early projects, and ENS. But yeah, so you've done a good job. Are there any steps next that Daniel Bernstein's going to take in order to either promote the message or encourage original token creators to wrap their tokens?
Well, I mean, I'm happy to be talking to you. That there's some reach there, and maybe someone will hear this and be motivated to wrap their Beercoin. I'm hoping like at least some people give it a shot. But I'm a behind the scenes guy. I'm not like a social media branding anything. I am terrible at that. So I'm probably going to do nothing.
Hopefully people in the community, they come in and look at it. I mean, if you're the one that just has the Beercoin, I guess you get to be an elitist. But would this be, this came before Pixel Map, right? This would be before Pixel Map. Yeah. So I wonder, do you know if it comes before Etherization too?
I think so.
So. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say it's the second NFT on Ethereum because I know of other ones, but it's probably the second NFT on Ethereum that was used for a while, that saw a lot of activity.
I've also seen a few contracts that are prior to Pixel Map, but then it comes into the issue of you have to hunt down the original dev to get the keys or to mint. And so there's a lot of historical NFT contracts that exist. It's just the excavation process of going through the different channels and mediums in order to revive the project. I know I've had this conversation with Adam multiple times about how do you even go about this? Is it even worth it? And I know that's a thing that puts up some roadblocks for some of the archaeologists in reviving these historic projects.
Yeah. I'm really into the really old stuff. I'm probably like a ancient history of Ethereum specialist. And I know you can't just go out and buy these things. You actually have to seek out the people that have them and pray that they have the keys and everything. But that's exciting to me. So I'm into that.
Yeah. Make sure you add this to the website. This is a very, very important piece to your website. Yeah. To add in. This is very, very, very important. Maybe I'll try to reach out to Nick too and see, if we could get him on, but congrats, man. This is it's quite a find. I know there's going to be there's definitely gonna be a lot of debate because it disproves timelines. But at the end of the day, as I become more ingrained and knowledgeable about the historical community and historical NFTs, unless you're first, I don't think it really matters. Like what order it is. I think it comes more down to the time period and time period, provenance, and innovation that the project introduced, and also the creator too. The fact that Nick created this and then went on to be a very successful founder and created ENS, which is probably going to revolutionize internet identity, I think adds an incredible amount of value to it, whether people determine it to be an NFT or not.
Yeah. Either way, I don't care at all. I like it. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit then. We have a little bit of time left. What about these other projects that you know? Have you decided to take this process of Beercoin excavation and attempt to apply it to some of these other projects that you've discovered?
Yeah, I've been digging around, and it's such a fun time right now, and I feel like things feel really early in terms of digging things up because like I've been able to find stuff that I think nobody else has noticed, and that feels really satisfying, and so yeah, I'm working on some things like some some are like top secret and are gonna, like, within a month, maybe I'll sort of reveal what I found, but some I'm happy to talk about. Like one thing is this ether rock thing. I think this counts as alpha or something that people don't really know about. So you got the ether rocks, the famous 100 rocks that sold for millions of dollars and everything. And by now people know there was a broken contract. It wasn't so broken it was unusable, but it was broken in some way, and that was like deployed the day before, and it allowed for like infinite minting of rocks. And so I guess there's like a wrapper contract, they call it the Genesis rocks, and there's like 0 through 99, and then 100 through 10,000, and I guess the first 100 of the broken ones go for more money. Like, I think you said that before. But I mean, I dug into it, and what actually happened, if you look at the actual history of the individual items, so they made the broken contract, they created 11 of the rocks, exactly 11. And then they realized, oh man, this thing is broken. We need to start again. So then they go and they make the official contract. And in the official contract, they talked about the first 11. And in fact, they ported all the data from the first 11 over. They said, well, okay, whoever owns those, we want the same owners and the same sale prices and everything. And then they went from there, right? So in my opinion, the first 11 are the real ones. Those are the ones that predate the ether rocks. But there's a lot of confusion about that. I think that's just not something anybody has cared about, or
once price history takes over, it's easy to dismiss some of the credible points that are brought up. So you're saying just so I could clarify this, the first 11 Genesis rocks are the real ether rocks, or first 11 ether rocks that we know are the original ones?
I'm saying there were 11 made in the broken contract, which they call the Genesis rocks.
Right.
And then they minted all the official rocks. Mm-hmm. And then later, from 12 on, they did all the rest of the Genesis rocks. Mm-hmm. So of the Genesis rocks, only 11 of them were actually made in 2017.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I thought it was like 0 through 99, but it's because of the import over it. Huh. Interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah. So I got number 10. I just paid it.
Savage.
I found that on sale and I sniped it.
That's some alpha right there. We'll see if that actually is applied. I do not own an ether rock, and I've watched it, but the history behind it is quite fascinating because it's a meme. I know the founder is not as active. He's around, but not as active. So some of these people that I reach out to are impossible to get a hold of, or they just, they don't want to take credit over some of their broken projects, even though we know that those are the valuable ones.
Yeah. I'm all about just digging into the code and looking for like little tiny details that no one has found yet. And that's, it's amazing. There's still, even in these projects that involving tons of money, there are still details that have been missed. And that's pretty exciting to me as like a computer nerd kind of guy.
When you're looking for these little missteps or these little like caricatures of a contract, are you looking actually through the code of the entire contract, or are you looking through the transaction history that appears on Etherscan?
I'll look at both. Yeah, the code, also the transaction history, the actual creation dates of the individual items. So I personally think people are too collection focused right now. They look at the deployment date of the collection, but then we don't quite have the tools to look at individual items and what's special about each item. I know you've done shows on Mooncats and how there are tools for looking at like, seeing which items are special there, but for other sets, it just doesn't exist yet. So
we are coming to the point now where we've been doing this for a little over a year. I think the majority of the large collections, the punks and the Mooncats and the Kiro cards and stuff like that are pretty much dug up. And now we're going to uncover some of these like very unique niche vintage collections like Beercoin that are pop up, which is going to take a little bit more effort to bring them back to life. And obviously there's not as much value there, right? You can't mint them out and then flip it. This is more of a collect and hold and then provide value to the community and the information out there, and then help be a part of the public discourse in determining is an NFT and the semantics behind it, which is something that I don't know if we'll ever come to a complete opinion on, but we could definitely try our best.
Yeah, sure. I mean, to me, it's I'm more, I guess I'm more open with, or loose with the definition. If you can own it and transfer it, it's good enough for me, but I know other people see it differently.
Yeah, soulbound tokens, right? Terranul's was the first soulbound token ever. Well, Dan, I appreciate you for coming on and sharing this information. I'm really looking forward to whatever these next few projects that you might uncover and bring back to life. Writing, first, just I want to tip my cap to you of taking your time to not only uncover the story, but actually write a wrapper. So it takes a very specific type of person to piece it all together. For me, I could uncover it, but I don't know how to write any contracts. So that's kind of my dead end. You're able to go the entire full distance with your partner. And so props to her as well.
Yeah. Thanks. This was a lot of fun.
Appreciate it. For those that are listening, what's the best way to, I guess, learn more, get more involved? So just follow you on Twitter, website, Beercoin.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. That's about it. Yeah, I mean, feel free to contact me if you have questions. That's about it. I'm
sure some people will definitely have some questions. Either that, or you're going to get some pitchforks, and you're going to get some pitchforks from some of the community. But yeah, I won't take any more of your time. I appreciate everything that you've done for this. This was a pretty fascinating conversation. If you've made this far and you're watching YouTube, comment below. Is it an NFT? Is it not an NFT? Do you want a Beercoin? Is Nick awesome? And the Broken Genesis rocks. And thank you guys for listening, watching. We'll catch you next time.